So next is Jasmin Lasslop, who is Lasslop, sorry, MA graduate from the Georg August University Göttingen. Her master thesis was on urban superfood against rural staple food with my colleague Andrea Lauser. She did research in Bangalore in 2022, and she will talk about today about her results from this research. Yes. Welcome, thank you. We are very much looking forward.
Yeah, also thank you very much for having me today. So yeah, I'll present my master's thesis today, and just briefly a small look at my structuring. First, I will talk about Ragi, what it is. I'll shortly present my theoretical framework, some facts from my ethnographic fieldwork, and finally my findings. So the one who eats a ragi ball or ragi mude is strong enough to uproot a mountain too. That is a very famous proverb in Karnataka, which already says a lot about this finger millet, or ragi as it is called in the local Kannada language. And it has been present for centuries in South India and has established itself as a flexible and modest staple food until rice was introduced, was probably from North India. In contrast, as a more laborious and auspicious crop within the new establishment of Brahmanic Hinduism, which is still the form of Hinduism which is mostly present in India until today. This trend was continued during the British colonial power and even culminated in rice imports from today's Myanmar to cover the high demand of rice at that time, almost replacing ragi as a staple food. Nowadays, there's a context of the so-called double burden of malnutrition, describing the similar coexistence of malnutrition in the sense of undernutrition and malnutrition in the sense of overnutrition, where it is thought that ragi can maybe intervene in this situation, and thus was also promoted in the International Year of Millets 2023. What is ragi? So usually the traditional foods which are prepared from it are ragi mude, where the brown reddish grains are ground into flour and cooked into a thick porridge, which are then formed into balls called mude and served as a side dish to the curries, as you can see. And also eating it is kind of a specific task because it's usually dipped and then swallowed directly, otherwise it sticks to the teeth. And another traditional dish prepared of it is ragi roti, which is a flatbread with added spices, or ragi malt, where the grains are sprouted, germinated, before they get ground into flour, from which a kind of soup is made based on milk and water. So I'll briefly talk about my theoretical framework, in which I moved within the new materialism and used the nature cultures concept, originally described by Latour, acting on the assumption of that nature and cultures are determine each other, and thus to understand how ragi oscillates between a staple food mainly in rural areas of South Karnataka and a rediscovered superfood in Bangalore. Thus, I was searching for intersections between life sciences and my subject of social and cultural anthropology, which are exemplified on my research object, where I decided to choose Tim Ingold's theory of materials and properties, which centers the the characteristics and properties of what ragi is made of from inside, instead of analyzing its materiality from outside. Thus, I thought, okay, I need to understand, what is this ragi from the other perspective of life sciences, and thus decided to do a semester abroad at the University of Agricultural Sciences in Bangalore, where I attended classes in food science and nutrition and agronomy, which were already part of my ethnographic fieldwork. But particularly in the agronomy class, I did a participant observation by growing ragi myself, as you can see, on the small testing fields on the campus, which was part of a course, which was very interesting for me. And I conducted 5 semi-structured interviews with classmates who were from regions around Bangalore. One was from the more southwest of Bangalore, which is said is a ragi center, and the other was more to another region of Bangalore, which is kind of a border region where ragi is still eaten, but then also another millet is eaten there. One with a ragi farmer who grows ragi. And then also I did two interviews with people from Bangalore itself, and a company who produces food products based on ragi. So I'll present my first what I've learned in my agronomy classes. You could see after some time it was growing a lot. So I want to understand which these scientific findings, how they influence people in consuming ragi and interacting with it. So I'll just briefly highlight that usually the natural monsoon is enough to grow this ragi, which is called as dryland farming. It's very widespread in Karnataka, and the only thing is that the yield is lower than with rice. In contrast to rice, rice has around 50 quintals per hectare of yield, 50 to 60 quintals per hectare, and 1 quintal is 50 kg. Then just showing on the nutritional ingredients, which I've learned from my classes from the food science and nutrition department. I presented for 100 grams of ragi, and in brackets I have the numbers of rice. And I'll highlight particularly the carbohydrates and fiber which ragi contains, which on the one hand can prevent undernutrition because it gives a long filling property. But on the other hand, this fiber can also be a chance in the double burden of malnutrition in the event of so-called non-communicable diseases, which are also prevalent in India. And as well, I want to show how it can intervene, that it has also contains even iron, where deficiencies are also prevalent in India, as well as you can see carotenoids, which are pre-stage of vitamin E, preventing diseases of vitamin A deficiency, ending in night blindness. So after then connecting it all with my interviews, I want to present my findings. So usually I want to divide it into 3 parts. So first I want to present the rural parts, where the materiality of ragi is kind of venerated as a modest and energy-giving staple food, resulting in religious legends or tales or even proverbs, which I presented at the beginning, and where it is even part within festivals or around festivals, within folk Hinduism more prevalent in rural areas. So this is a sweet which one of my informants told me, the one who was more from the north of Bangalore, which are kind of ragi noodles cooked in sugar syrup, particularly prepared during the Festival of Lights, Diwali. And also there's one festival which is called Ayudha Puja, where the agricultural instruments are blessed, but also the forefathers are remembered in serving them food, where also ragi mudde is served. So there we can see materiality on one side has a positive connotation, but on the other hand, I was told by the ragi farmer that usually ragi is only grown for their own consumption. Mostly on which he earns money is more in producing rice. So I'll move to the urban area of Bangalore, where this rice is more used as a staple food, where in contrast the materiality is more interpreted as in a negative sense, more as a poor man's food associated with rural or poorer parts of the urban populations. And there also, as I said, in contrast, Brahmanic Hinduism is more predominant, where rice plays an important part. And additionally, local and international restaurants are competing with the traditional dishes which I presented at the beginning, where ragi mudde is served seldom. You can see there's this akki roti, which is the version made of rice instead of ragi. And finally, now again in the double burden of malnutrition, interpreting ragi as a superfood based on all the scientific findings. It is seen as a superfood which can prevent these non-communicable diseases like diabetes, which is then very highlighted as very important. And the thing is that this kind of food has to make accessible for everyone and also easy to prepare, which is why for example, this company has established to produce ragi ready-made products, with whom I also did an interview. Or else you can also find many products where ragi is additionally added, like this ragi cookies. So in a nutshell, coming back to ragi's materiality according to Ingold, after analyzing its materiality, we can see it has interacting effects with people regarding interpreting this materiality in different ways, which produces kind of social differentiation in the way also of how ragi is consumed. And UIS Bangalore, the university, can act as a mediator and bringing together these two perspectives of ragi as either rural staple food or an urban superfood. But the thing is that these interdependencies, which I just presented, and the social differentiation between people is perpetuated themselves on this ragi and expressed in different practices of preparing it as a food, because especially, as I said, ragi mudde is neglected in the city and other products want to be consumed in contrast to the rural area where it is consumed as ragi mudde, for example. So there we can see that it gives room for a very conflicting point where all these different perspectives come together, which I just wanted to present within this master's thesis. So we are leaving the field now in a double sense, and I want to thank you very much for your attention.